All right, gang, it's once again way past Kalamazi's bedtime, but this time we're not going to call him for the intro, and we're instead going to do this entire episode by ourselves, so sorry about that. Today we've got a recap of Race World First events happening.
I think there's been a lot that went on in the past 24 hours that I don't think you could have predicted exactly what was going to happen in
We
from
did
the last
yesterday,
recap.
and I think we were pretty on point, right?
Well,
We thought that Echo were definitely going to kill Silken Court.
Yep.
Not definitely, but, it was
Very
what,
likely.
90%, 95, something
Yep.
like that. We thought that Method were probably going to. I think I had that at 60 or 70%.
that was Nexus Princess.
That was Nexus Princess? Okay.
You thought that both Echo and Method were both going to kill it yesterday.
And they did kill. Method did kill Silken Court. Now,
And Echo also has killed Silken Court.
yeah. So basically, the way, if you haven't been following along with what happened, Liquid, most of the start of their day was just Reclear. BOE farming actually was worth doing.
BOE farming's garbage, but we're going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah, and then some Ansurek pulls. Meanwhile, Echo, at the end of their 7th day, they killed Silken Court about midway through their day, and then they were able to get in and get a lot of work done on Queen Ansurek, taking it down. Only a few pulls, but I think they streamed as well, which is great.
Yeah.
Streaming that product was really cool.
Echo was the first guild to pull Ansurek on
stream,
stream.
yeah.
And we learned a couple of things about the fight, particularly that the
It ramps the number of froths. Each
the
cast.
froths each cast ramp. The timing on the fight is also a little bit different.
Right.
But the only thing that really is changing from heroic to mythic at a glance is that froth difference, where I guess there's two different things. First off, they ramp. It starts at 2, goes to 3, goes to 4, potentially even 5.
I don't think it'll be 5. I think it'll be intermission, but I'm not. 100%
I think
sure.
I'm pretty sure it'll be 4 before it's 5.
Yeah.
But the big thing too is that you can't break them within a second of one another. There's
Right.
like a buff, and so you need to be able to break it at a specific time. So if that buff expires, and then everybody has to be able to get over the ring. This means that you can't stack 100 melee on this. Like you
You have a
realistically.
few, but there are diminishing returns on more of them as you start having those that you need to pop further back away
Exactly.
from the boss, right? Because
So
Yeah.
it seems like there are about 2 that you can get pretty close to the boss.
Yeah.
And then there's one that you send, like the third one, you send your tanks and maybe.
well, you wouldn't have to ever send like. So when you have 3 of them, for instance, you could do what 766,
Yeah.
or 776 rather.
Yeah.
And so you only need 7 ranged to make that work, right? On the far range one. When there's 4 of them, you do 555, so you need 10 range to be happy there. But you could have 3 players conceivably. 3 players could be in the back of the room.
The 2 tanks and the Holy Paladin
Yeah.
reasonably can play at ranged and be fine enough. Yeah, so if we actually take a look at what comp Liquid is running, we can actually see that they're playing a lot of melee. They are playing a decent amount of range, though. They do have the 2 Arcane Mages, they have the 2 Preservation Evokers, they have the Warlock. So it's pretty common stuff. They also have the double Dev. There's a question as to whether or not those players are going to swap to AUG. They've been playing Dev most of the tier, so I kind of expect them to
I think
stick on
Liquid
Dev.
are pretty firmly in the Dev Believers camp. Echo were playing a little bit more AUG than they were, and they also started on
So-
Dev on this fight too.
Liquid are at 8 ranged, if I'm counting correctly. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so you've got 3 ranged healers, and
9,
then
9. They're on
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ranged DPS. Yeah,
Yeah.
so 9, which works. That works fine for 4 froths, right? Because you need to split up 5, 5, 5, 5.
Yeah.
So you can send, 5 giga range to the back, and then 4 of the medium range, which is probably like the 4 evokers, and then like 1 tank to the 3rd farthest one.
Yeah.
And then all of your melee get to be basically in full uptime. So yeah, I think this composition should work out just fine.
Okay, so basically then we had reset. You leave this up real quick.
Yeah.
Look at the difference in item level between the 2 guilds. So whenever Echo last pulled Ansurek, they were 621.9.
Right, that's reset 1 year.
Liquid has finished their splits. I don't think they've sent all of their crafts or everything yet.
No, this will probably go up again tomorrow.
But they're at 625.2.
I bet this is about 1 item level less than they will be able to max out at this week.
I was feeling like a half, but
Maybe
maybe
a
it's
half,
maybe
yeah.
it's a full. It's pretty close to what's going to be maxed out
Dude.
this week.
Look at Hot Pot Hero here. They're
Oh,
a 624 reset 1. I bet they could get up to like 628, 629. I wonder if that could go crazy on this boss.
yeah. But yeah, so Echo actually down Silken Court I would describe it as an okay amount of time.
Yeah, I think it was actually pretty good. Even.
I would describe it as like a medium outcome for them. I thought that there was a chance that they could down at about lunchtime.
They weren't
Europe.
long after lunchtime, were they? It was like
It was like 5. It was like 5 p.m.
Okay,
which was like fine, right?
Yeah.
So they got a decent amount of attempts on stream of Ansurek. I think they pulled it like 10 times or something like that, and then they probably pulled it for a few hours off stream, and then they go to bed early, right? They go to bed like 9, 10, maybe.
Yeah,
probably like 9. Because their resets at 5 a.m.
Resets 5 a.m. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so then, since then, they've woken up and started their reset and done.
Yeah, they're on the same chores lifestyle. I'm curious if they'll do the BOE farming that Liquid did. Liquid did several. So during Liquid's day, they were doing Mythic first 4 Reclear, and then a bunch of heroic splits. And what they would do is every 30 minutes after the instant soft reset on Mythic, they would go and clear all the trash between the 4th boss and the 5th and 6th bosses.
Yeah.
And they got a couple of BOEs that way. BOEs are pretty good. They're 629. They're Myth 3 out of 6, so they're equivalent to the loot from the 3rd and 4th bosses on Mythic. That's pretty good.
I think it's really dumb how Hot Pot Hero gained all that item level where they were basically running.
Yeah, they ran splits of the trash before the first boss, which
it got fixed.
Now no longer drops BOEs. That trash does, but hey, they figured out that it does. That's one of the rare cases of having a little bit of an advantage for starting later and getting that info.
It was an oversight. It wasn't like a. It wasn't
not a bug, no abuse. Just using what the they were doing, right? Like very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're kind of expecting 626 ish to be the cap of what Ansurek is going to be killed with by either Liquid or Echo.
Somewhere in that range we think is probably where it'll be. And Hot Pot Hero might be able to, especially if they can finish off Silken before their reset, they might be able to pick up, 628, something like that. But that's keeping them in a very close 4th. Let's talk about what happened with Method, though, because that was a tale.
This was a saga.
Yeah.
So, Method were pulling Silken Court yesterday. We were like, oh yeah, they'll probably kill Silken Court.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it actually required that many pulls. And Method were actually at a pretty good spot in terms of just like boss progression at a very specific point, right? I think that they were even ahead of Echo at a time where I want to say they were both at like 25%, but Method was maybe at like 23.
Yeah, they were briefly in the lead for second place, at least on the. I think it was after this poll here, maybe this 15.2.
Yes. So I think you can probably see where this went downhill here.
Yeah.
They had that poll 135 or whatever it was at 15.26%, and I'm like, wow, they're going to kill this fight rather quick. This bodes well for Method. Maybe it really is a 3-horse race.
Yeah.
And then Method proceeded to run it like Disco Nunu. Tyler won. We're running it straight down middle for approximately 7 hours, if I had to wager.
Yeah.
And they
the
pushed
1.3 as well here. Tragic as they were crossing over midnight.
And this is crazy. They pushed their raid. They probably wanted to end around 9.
Yeah,
10,
that would have been ideal, right? If they had killed Silken Court, they would have gone to bed probably around 9.
Guess what time they went to bed?
I don't have to guess. I know.
Now let the viewers know, because they've just guessed.
It was like 5 a.m., which was like their server. So here's what happened. In the land of Europe, the server maintenance and the server resets are desynced from each other, which, by the way, the fact that does happen over there is an argument against one of the common, but you can't do a global release because what if the server resets are different in different regions? It's like you could just take the servers down at different times in different regions. They do that in the EU, and then the resets at a different time.
The EU.
The EU. That's right. The European Union.
Yeah.
The Eastern United States. So their servers went down at 3 a.m., Now in EU, they also have the magical ability to have servers only go down for like 30 minutes, 15 minutes. So they come back up at 3:30 a.m.
Yes.
Method have been sitting there waiting for the servers to come back up because it's been 18 hours, it's been 20 hours of them being awake, but they are not happy with leaving with the boss alive. So they wait until the servers come back up. They're sitting there on streams, and you can
this
see,
is the craziest shit I've
there
ever
are some
seen.
screenshots I've seen, some compilations of like all their face cams. They're all just like completely. They're in the trenches.
This is the craziest thing I've seen in a while.
Yeah, this is one of the most incredible things to happen in Race World First. But then the servers come back up, they lock in, they kill the boss. Huge props to them. Very impressive.
Look at the very end. Hold on, let me see if I can.
Yeah, not that one. No, this one. Yeah, there you go.
Look at the last 4 polls.
Yeah.
They actually just locked in and killed the boss. So so then Method ends up being literally about 24 hours behind Liquid.
Right. But here's the thing. It's not actually that bad. You were saying like this is so bad that they're pulling this,
okay.
but like you go to bed, you wake up at 10 a.m. or something, you wake up at noon, something like that.
I've reconsidered a little
It's
bit.
fine.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's not okay. Here's the thing. I think they're going to come in third.
Yes, I agree.
I think they're going to come in third because they didn't kill Silken Court fast enough. But it's not because, if they killed it or didn't, I don't think it's because of that. I think it's because they are effectively 24 hours behind Liquid, and they need to be gaining ground, not losing ground.
They have the ability to do that though. If Queen Ansurek is hard, they are not pulling it right now. They're catching up on sleep. They're catching up on doing their splits and stuff, and they're going to be able to glean a lot of information from Liquid and Echo about Phase 1 Queen Ansurek. So if they play Queen Ansurek, they have to play Queen Ansurek not just a little bit better, they have to play it a medium amount, a moderate amount better than Liquid and Echo in order to win this race. But that is still possible. The reason that we think it's third is most likely for them is that they haven't really demonstrated that they do play better even a little bit than Liquid and Echo on kind of an average fight on a long-term basis, right? So
I agree, yeah.
That is the problem here. The problem isn't that they're in a losing position. The problem is that they are still just a guild that we expect to play the fight a little bit worse than Liquid and Echo. Again, not because they're a bad guild. They're a great guild. They're the third best guild in the world. But there's two better guilds, and
Yep.
I think those two guilds are still two better guilds.
I think that this is going to be a very close finish, kind of similar to what we saw with Fireack, where I suspect that you're going to have both Echo and Liquid pulling Ansurek at a very low percent at the same time.
I think we're going to be getting that. I think tomorrow we're going to start seeing the boss dipping into the 40s.
I'm thinking a Thursday kill is on the table.
I think a Thursday kill's on the table, and I'm hopeful it's a Thursday kill because I have a Friday flight. And there's nothing quite like a Thursday kill and a Friday. That's a good combo. A Friday kill and a Friday flight, not a good combo. That combo doesn't work. You got to rebook your flight in that instance. So a little bit biased here, but I'm hopeful for a Thursday kill.
I think that Thursday and Friday are probably the two most likely days of the week that the kill ends up happening. I think that it's been a bit weird. Ansurek Phase 1 has, in my opinion, looked a little bit easier than expected.
Nobody's gotten out of it yet, though.
But the HP on the boss is kind of low.
Yeah.
But the shield in the first phase is also 700 million.
That's
so it's 10% of the boss's HP. There's also the intermissions that we have yet to see. We also don't know what the damage check looks like at the end of the fight. It could be brutal for all we know.
We don't know the Phase 2 and Phase 3 Mythic mechanics, which there usually are, and they're usually not in the Dungeon Journal. So
yep. So
it should be exciting to see. Probably tomorrow we'll be talking about whatever discoveries have been made about those phases.
New phase?
I think there's a chance. So the problem is if the phases get discovered later in the day for either team, they'll probably be switching off streams and progging them potentially off stream. So we may be at a point this time tomorrow where either guild or potentially
I think Fireack, both guilds.
Off. Exactly. Like I think there's a decent chance that what'll happen is there'll be a poll where it's like, okay, clearly we're about to start seeing P3. It's 9 p.m. Let's turn off our streams for now. So I think that might be the world we're living in when we record our video tomorrow, but I hope not. I always love it when everything's televised. It's just, the realities of the competitive nature of the race. They do turn off streams for a couple of hours generally at the end of the day. There has been longer turn-offs, but I doubt either team would do a full day off stream, for instance, this time around. It doesn't seem like the kind of race for that.
Turning off streams is one of those things that, in an optimal situation, you would never stream any of your progression.
Right.
That way, nobody could ever copy anything that you're ever doing, learn any information, or see anything beyond, like, what was the kill comp that you used, basically. You also wouldn't upload your prog to Raider.io or Warcraft logs or anything else, right?
Yeah.
You would turn off competition mode, and it would make for a much worse product, basically.
Yeah.
So
they're balancing the needs of, like, let's run a good broadcast, let's have an exciting race to world first, and let's have that 1 or 2 hour right before we go to bed of the most valuable information that we can televise and not televise that.
I will say, I think that Liquid has basically gone muted comms very infrequently, and Echo's been muted most of this race again.
Which is typical. That the two guilds have a pretty different approach towards muting comms, where Liquid will sort of mute if it is necessary to mute comms because they're like, okay, we're definitely about to talk about something important. Whereas Echo will generally play with the mindset of like, okay, if we're at all in a kind of strategic mode, let's mute our comms because we're talking. But then, and we don't want people to ever feel like they need to dance around topics or use some veiled language. There will be, if you listen to Liquid comms, sometimes there will be people talking about like, oh, look at that thing in there, and it's clear that like the communication is a little bit less efficient because they know they're communicating past an audience that they don't want to actually to know exactly what it is they're talking about.
I will also say too, but Echo is a bit slower, I think, in my opinion, like in my experience, to like turn off their streams whenever they're pulling a boss for the first time sometimes.
Yeah, like I was a little surprised that they did pull Ansurek on stream last night, although it makes sense. From their perspective, they were probably like, look,
Well, I mean, Liquid's already
seen all
pulled
this.
it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, Liquid's already pulled it. It's not
Yeah.
like they were actually strategizing. They were just pulling it kind of... Like, those were the first 10 pulls that they would have done regardless.
Right.
And it was more just like fan service, which I think is, that's
It's
what
good.
the race
That's
war first is
exactly
for.
like that. It is a good thing to do whenever it's free to do, right?
Yep.
Whenever it doesn't cost you valuable
And they had
leaking info.
and they had 70,000 views because of it.
Yep, and those are deserved. So
Yep.
I in fact, the bigger that number is, the more the incentive is to not turn off streams, which is great.
Yep. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? What are predictions for the next 24 hours?
I think we'll be 40% on Queen Ansurek, something like that.
Ooh, you think we're going to be able to talk about P2 prog?
I bet we'll have frogged P2 and we'll have had a couple of pulls touching P3. Whether those are on or off stream, I don't know.
What do we think Echo's going to... So Echo's going to finish all their chores.
Yeah. I bet the Liquid will wake up to like Echo at 60% or something. Echo
You think
at
they'll get
55.
through? You think they're going to get through that shield that we saw, that 700 million health shield?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like completely off the table. I was just wondering what your thoughts were.
I guess maybe not. It's hard to say. Maybe they'll just have a full-on chores day, and by the time just do more chores. Because the weird dynamic is that Echo get a longer day one of the reset by virtue of the 5 a.m. reset instead of the 10 a.m.
It's a much
which
longer
is
day.
proc to noon both weeks here, and so maybe you just say, all right, we are gonna full-on splits mode, M plus mode this day, and then by the time that's done, we're just going to go and get a nice early night whenever all that's done, rather than trying to pull while we're tired.
Did Liquid finish their like M plus for the crests and stuff?
I think they got most of the stuff they wanted to get done. I don't know if all characters are done with all their gilded crests.
Okay. All right.
There's usually it's true that whatever characters aren't in for the raid are doing M plus, so you're getting gilded crests from either the raid or M plus, but it depends. I don't know for sure. I'm sure that there are some characters that still need some stuff. All right.
Liquid's farm was fine.
It was good, and the Reclear was good. The Kai'Veza was quick.
11 pulls.
Yep, Silken was quick.
7 pulls.
Yeah, which that sounds like a worse ratio for Silken than the first pull count ratio, but I think it's about right actually.
It felt fine. Whenever you're watching, they lost maybe an hour to wiping, but like that's kind of what you budget. You kind of budget about 4 hours for Reclear, and I think that they were a little bit faster than maybe the 4 hours even was projected.
Yeah, I think that there weren't. It didn't feel like a nightmare Reclear. It felt fine. Obviously, it could have been better, but I think this is one of those things where the difficulty of those bosses, I think you take that in a heartbeat rather than a reroll. For instance,
you could take a. You could one shot either Nexus Princess or Silken Court, but like it seems just so unlikely.
You could also get walled by them, which
that's nightmare situation. Basically, we won't really talk too much about Reclear unless somebody gets completely boned.
Tomorrow's episode we'll probably not talk about echoes and methods too much unless something bad happens, which it might. It does sometimes.
That's why we have methods 24-hour day. I don't think that's ever been a topic.
Methods 24-hour day part 2 coming next episode of the Race to World First recap. You heard it here.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow.
GN.
GN.